Right. So the topic of our presentation today is temporal subgraph isomorphism. And in order to get a better understanding of what this really is about, we have a very descriptive paper by Oberoi and team that tells us about this problem. So the problem arises specifically in the context of dynamic graphs, and that is because in static graphs the complexity is not that high, but in dynamic graphs the structures keep on evolving over time, which are hard to track because this it raises the problem of matching the subgraphs within these very time varying structures. So if we look at this solution that was provided by Oberoi and team, we see that it is snapshot based representation of these graphs. It helps to maintain the temporal order by basically showing you how the graph is going to evolve over time, and the sequence is going to be maintained, which increases the accuracy and also helps to match the subgraphs. So how to understand why this is better than the previous existing solutions. The traditional solutions will only approach static graphs particularly, and that is because that is why the chronological order of events is going to be lost in this case. So when we talk about the aggregated methods that have been used, they take much like the average of the entire graphs, and so you can't have them as accurate as the Oberoi solution. So basically, this is better in terms of time complexity. This is second best in the complexity, and its accuracy is also pretty high when it comes to detecting isomorphism. And if we look into whether or not this is as credible or whether or not this is as credible, we have evidences, especially in the form of empirical evidence, which is basically evidence that revolves around data sets that show through various experiments, using real world data sets, that it is quite credible. And then the performance of this algorithm, if you compare it to the pre-existing algorithms, it will show you that it is second best overall in terms of its runtime as well. And then we have also seen that there is an existing algorithm that is completely unable to solve any kind of larger pattern graphs, which is basically a specialty of this solution. And we can see through experiments the size of the sliding window and how this increases efficiency when you increase the size. Coming over to the visual representation of this is just for an understanding. The first picture will show you a more generic understanding of this, whereas the other two are more relevant to our project. And now Varisha is going to explain the code and the output.
Now we're gonna move on to the code part, code and the output. First of all, we have proof of the code run part. This shows us that we have actually run the code, and there are three main parts of it: the input, the code running, and the output. First of all, we're gonna talk about the input. The input has five main parts. We have the path of the target graphs, the number of snapshots of the target graphs being used, which in this case are 8. Then we have the path of the pattern graphs and the number of snapshots from them being used. And lastly and fifth, we have the window increment size, which in this case is not being used. Then moving forth, we're going to go to the output. In the output, as you can see, we have two arrays. First array is the H array, which is the pattern graphs, and then we have the G arrays, which are the target graphs. And G0 means the first target graph snapshot, H0 means the first pattern graph snapshot. In this output, we can see that the pattern graph we have for at zero, we are going from V1 to R1, and it is mapped in the target graphs as from V100 to R35. In this case, we have found the solution of them. So there's one solution and the time is given. But in any case, in if any one of the maps, say from 0 to 1, 0 to uh, if they are not being mapped properly, then the solution will not exist. Even for one specific graph, if it is not being mapped properly, no solution may exist. Now we're going to move on to the next part. We have been given a figure, and in this figure, you can see that the Argentina team employed the same passing scheme, giving again and again, having less entropy, giving Spain an easier way to win over them as they were changing their technique again and again. Next figure we have is the heat map. Heat maps of the both the teams. Heat map basically show the probability of transitioning from one graphlet to another. The more change, the better. So in the Argentina team, we can see that it appears to be more stable and more predictable and more frequent with how they handle their passes. However, with the Spain team, they're more complex, vary transitions, and leverage multiple graphlets in dynamic ways. In conclusion, high entropy in passing patterns can make play more strategic, and temporal models help to help analysts in team sports, providing insights better than static models. Thank you.